Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is more bad business content, and this is a video reporting back on the most recent festive event for Christmas. And I hold off on this video because I didn't have too many kind things to say about this event, and I didn't want to shit on it while it was happening, because I really appreciate the hard work that went into it and the idea and the thought. You know, they do say, don't they, when you get something for Christmas that's perhaps not what you wanted, it's the thought that counts, so you shouldn't hold it too harshly against the person, because they were thinking about you, and bad business guys were thinking about their community when they did this. And to give you an idea what they did, guys, is they released a new gun by the name of the Icicle Launcher. They also decorated a handful of levels, Cairo, Factory, and Waterways in this festive attire that you see right now. And this is footage of King of the Hill on Factory. So, I love the idea of changing maps and thematically shifting them towards stuff that's happening in the world to celebrate various things. It can sometimes bring an influx of new life and new attention into something. But what I'm not the biggest fan of is covering every single level in haze, in this white-out, bleak-looking, strange filter to give the impression of snow. Because all it does is make it so that I can't see people at a distance, and the reason I play Bad Business is because I don't have to mess about with shitty modern visibility problems, and I don't like this fog effect, this mist effect. I respect that it is, of course, trying to simulate the impression of the weather and the changing of the temperature and the bleaker winter months, but to me, it completely ruined my enjoyment of the game, and because the rotation was so heavy on these new event maps, that's all you played. Every single round was on one of the 3 levels, and they were always in the rotation, and they were always getting voted for because the kids want to see the Christmas stuff, and I can't blame them, I don't blame them. So I did what most people do, I think, when they don't like something, is I just avoided it and waited for it to end, and I was incredibly grateful when it did end, because the tree in the middle here on the Koth points in both Cairo and this place, until they tweaked it so that you didn't collide with it and bounce off it, it became just an absolute sticky nightmare of who the hell thought this was a good idea, what were they thinking, and where can I find them so I can send them a strongly worded email full of my own shit. But it was bizarre, such a bizarre choice, and they indeed changed it, realising it wasn't perhaps the best idea. Good intentions, but terrible in execution, and it made it a lot better and a lot more bearable, but to me the visibility issue was way too off. And instead of just talking about why I don't like it, why it's garbage, and saying the person that made it is a clown and should be shot by a firing squad, which I don't want to happen, I'm just jesting if you're new to the channel, I want to take this a different direction. I want to say what perhaps they could have done, or what I would have done, or the direction it could have taken that might have been a bit more pleasing to somebody who's a bit more inclined to enjoying visibility like myself. So, my first instinct when I was hearing about this event, I got really excited because I thought it was going to turn the maps into nighttime, and I thought it was just going to have like candy canes everywhere and Christmas tree and some snows on some places, and just essentially give us a night variant of the map. And I thought that would have been a really, really good idea, because they wouldn't have to mess with the lighting, they wouldn't have to mess with a lot of things, because you could just make it static and give it the impression of a slightly warmer glow. And that's kind of the direction I was hoping they would go for, because such a big contrast of the dark skies is quite dramatic. And I think the reason they didn't do that is because the Halloween event was quite recently, and that definitely gloomified some of the levels. But I would have loved to have seen just make it night and just a heavy emphasis on lights everywhere. And you don't have to do dynamic lighting or crazy lighting, but I think it would have just really made the level pop and given it its own feeling, and I would have enjoyed it a lot more than I did this, because I ended up just, as I mentioned, I didn't play. You'll notice as well, there's a guy in this gameplay here who's actually a pretty good player. He's quite a high level player as well, and I get some really unlucky hipfire on him. If I wasn't using the Scar, which is an amazing gun, but it only has 20 bullets, any other gun in some of these gunfights, and I reckon I would have beat him almost every time, but it was one of those situations where he beats me a lot and he outplays me, and kudos to that. But unfortunately, I think at the end he votes to kick me, which I'm not a big fan of, because when you come up against competition you should fucking man up, you shouldn't just immediately try and get rid of it. But back to the event here, however. The waterway map, I'm not a big fan of waterways. I find that map really kind of topsy-turvy, it's all over the place. Sometimes it can be really fun when people play it in a nice way, other times it can be you just chasing ghosts and it's kind of frustrating, so it's not something that I'm going to, go out of my way to find, and it was coming up a lot. And then the Cairo map. Cairo's another one of those maps which can be kind of hide and seeky, and ironically enough, I don't like Cairo because of the visibility problems with it being a sandy level. They've given it this dusty effect, which means that people in the distance look a little bit more faded than they would normally on most maps. They don't pop. But in the Christmas edition, the Cairo level had the best visibility it's ever had. So that level actually got a lot better in my opinion, but the problem is, it was always king of the hill, and that Christmas tree was in the middle of the hill, and it made it even more obnoxious, and to me it was unplayable. I didn't want to do it, so I just avoided it. And then that brings me to the Icicle Launcher, which, when I was getting into this festive event, I was really scared of that, because I looked at the damage numbers, and it was essentially a one-hit kill in some questionable ranges, and it was firing pretty fast. But when I got on the game, and I came up against people using it, it looks like because of the spread on the icicles, that it's a skill cannon, and it's the kind of gun where if you're really good at aiming, and you know the projectiles, and you know bad business, you're going to do really well. But if you don't have that experience, it's not going to come for free. You might get a couple of lucky kills, but you're going to die a lot more too, like these grenades that are everywhere. Because the grenades in this game need nerfing or changing or something, because fuck me. If it weren't for grenades, what would 90% of these players do to kill people? They just wouldn't, let's face it. Except for that guy, because he's a beast. But I thought the Icicle Launcher was going to be a monster, and I haven't used it myself, and I get the feeling that when I do use it, I'm going to turn it into a monster, because it is a very, very dangerous gun when you understand what you're doing. It just takes a little time to put it in. So I had this fear when I turned the game on that I was just going to be getting one-tapped repeatedly from hipfire and things of that nature, and I killed almost everybody using it, didn't have any problems. It's kind of fitted its way into the game, as most guns do, and you just don't see it. I've seen it maybe twice since the event, and that's whatever that is, that's just the ecosystem of the game, isn't it? But yeah guys, how did you find the festive event? Did you like the Christmas event? Did it give you what you were looking for, what you were hoping for? It was a bit of a miss for me, but I definitely appreciate the effort. So thank you for watching, and you take care now.